a very warm welcome to this session of How I Lead Authentically. Before we move on to the session, I'd like to thank our session sponsor, HP India. And remember, you can post your questions on the chat window and our speakers will address them towards the end of the session. So what is being authentic? Being authentic is nothing but showing your true self and how you feel. So why be authentic, especially as leaders? Because leading with authenticity creates, number one, transparency. It brings in a true sense of balance. And not just that, it builds trust and respect amongst each other, and it definitely empowers others. So in this session, we have two amazing speakers who will share their powerful journey of being an authentic leader and how this has been a transformational experience at an individual and at an organization level. So first speaker for this session is Binu Mathew. Binu is the HR head at HP India. She is responsible for managing the HR function across India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. She's also responsible for driving the business transformation agenda at HP. Binu will speak about how leading with authenticity actually creates transparency, builds trust, and empowers others around us in our workspaces. Our second speaker is going to be Margaret. Margaret is a senior audit partner and the National Inclusion, Diversity, and Wellbeing leader at Deloitte. She's a recognized audit leader and champion of diversity and inclusion, with over 30 years of experience in advising some of the world's largest multinational organizations. She will speak about how being the authentic leader has been a transformational experience, both at individual and organizational levels. Thank you. Over to you, Binu.
Not long ago, I met with a group of top talent employees at HP. We were discussing career development when one of the senior most employees in the group asked me to list what is the most important characteristic one has to have to be a leader at HP. And I said that I could summarize it in one word, and that is authenticity. Hello, everyone. My name is Binu Mathew, and I'm the head of human resources for HP India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka. It's indeed a great pleasure for me to address you all today, and I'm going to talk about 5 key elements of how I lead authentically. And I'm going to weave this around with some of my own life experiences. The first key element to be authentic is to have a sense of purpose. In my early days post my grade 12, when I was at the crossroads of what to take as a major, I had just 2 options in front of me. My parents wanted me to be a doctor and I wanted to choose management. Back then, management wasn't even a career path, with engineering and medicine being the most wanted career options. It was the road less taken. My father asked me only one question: what do I want to do? And to which I replied that I would like to work with people. His simple response was that if your destination is clear in your mind, then both the roads would take you there. That's when I jumped into the management bandwagon. Fast forward 18 years after I joined HP, I became very involved in the diversity and inclusion initiatives. One of the biggest decisions we as a team made back then was the development of our women talent for leadership positions. Taking on this big, meaningful but complex project was not easy. It was not well supported. It is impossible for us to know everything up front. Anyone taking on an initiative of change normally gets criticized too fast because there's someone who wants to slow you down. Also, there is a fear of making mistakes. Greatest successes have come from the freedom to fail, and that to fail fast and then try again quickly. We launched one of our flagship women development programs called Usha in 2016. And since then, we've had 4 batches of women who have graduated from it. And with the pandemic this year, we've even gone virtual. Our sense of purpose to achieve a dream of advancing women talent started only because at that early time, we had a purpose-driven vision and went after it. Today, Disha is one of the most coveted programs that every woman at HP India wants to be a part of. The second element is consistency and transparency. The ability to focus on a goal and move forward towards that goal, even in the face of setbacks, is something that I really believe is important. Consistency is what defines an authentic leader. I believe that as a leader, one needs to remain calm all the time. Most of my team members will agree that it's one of my biggest strengths. To do this consistently during a stressful situation is not easy. I'm human too. However, being self-aware and determined is the key to get there. One of the biggest examples is how we handled the COVID-19 situation. In about 14 days, we were able to move 10,000 employees to work from home, and we did it with full transparency and rigor. We ensured that there was clear communication and no confusion or stress. The intriguing part about all of such situations is that there are no reference points. The MD of India and I were taking decisions and risks that we had never taken before. However, consistently staying calm and keeping the India leadership as well as the employees informed of what we were doing helped us to get ahead of the game. Even before lockdown 1.0, 10,000 employees were all working from the safety of their homes, and they still continue to do so. The third element is solid values. Here I would like to share my own personal experience of when I joined HP. This was about 9 years ago. I wasn't actively looking for a role change, and one day a headhunter called me and she asked if I'd like to interview. At first I said no, and that I was very happy with my current job. However, she said that it's important to just have a conversation and to understand what is happening in the industry just as a learning. So I accepted that, and after a couple of rounds, I was put on to my manager, who I was going to report to. She told me about the profile of the job, and she seemed very excited to have me on board. The role seemed very exciting as well. However, she saw a little bit of a hesitation from my side, and after that, she probed a bit. That's when I revealed to her that I was expecting a child and that I wouldn't be able to do justice to a new organization and a new role. I had just decided to meet her for a learning. The way my then manager handled that situation was absolutely amazing. She not only offered me the job at HP, she even said that this was a natural process of life and that should really not stop my ambitions. That, to me, my friends, is HP in a nutshell. The culture and the values, along with the people, have always amazed me. For me, wearing the HP hat now comes naturally, and it reiterates the solid values and culture that the organization has. It also reiterates why we're called a great place to work. The fourth value is the courage to admit one's mistakes. When I took on the role as the India head of HR, it was very overwhelming, to say the least. I took over from my predecessor, who had about 10 years more experience than I had, and she is someone I respected immensely. I was very nervous. One of the first emails that came to me then was from the compliance leader. He was doing something different to reiterate the message on POSH. I was excited and I approved it immediately. And there were these stickers that were put up on all desks across 20 sites in 14 cities. Moving on, this is how the sticker looked. The next day, I got 2 calls from 2 different employees. The employees seemed very disturbed, and they said that the sticker made them feel very uncomfortable, and it seemed like a gender bias. I realized that I hadn't done the right thing, and this hadn't gone well with the male employees. And the message we sent was not gender neutral. I checked with a few male colleagues, and they commented that maybe the image could have been different. I immediately requested the compliance leader to ensure that all the stickers are taken down. And I also sent out an email saying that we'd heard feedback and it wasn't intended to hurt anyone. Now, we all make mistakes. Accepting them boldly, moving forward quickly, and taking swift corrective action is what is most important, and that really exemplifies an authentic leader. Finally, my most favorite element of an authentic leader is leading with the heart. Leaders are always examined under a microscope. Their behaviors are observed, discussed, and dissected by employees, as well as outsiders. Being sensitive to the team's needs and willingness to help them is extremely key. Being aware of my team and what they are going through is extremely important. Noticing when they are stressed about a situation, both professional and personal, is very critical to me. Sometimes their workloads increase dramatically and the deadline shortened immensely. That's when I make it a point to check in individually to see with them how they're dealing with everything and what I could do to really relieve their stress. Being genuinely concerned about the team and their family's well-being is extremely important. I have a 10-member team and about 70 members in HR in HP India. Connecting with them through skips and other connects has only helped me to keep myself honest to what I could do differently. Also, being extremely humble about soliciting feedback and genuinely trying to change has really helped me grow as a leader and an individual. Hence, in conclusion, developing these qualities of an authentic leader, which are leading with a sense of purpose, with absolute consistency and transparency, ensuring the foundation is always built on solid values, having the courage to admit one's mistakes, and finally leading with your heart will not only make you an authentic leader, but it will also help you hone and develop into an absolutely positive and powerful leader with a fulfilling life. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Dreyer. I'm a partner with Deloitte in Australia, and I have the absolute privilege of leading the inclusion, diversity, and well-being agenda. Look, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm really, really grateful, and I feel so honoured to talk to you about a topic that is probably one of my favourite topics to talk to, the topic of authenticity and inclusion. Now, what I thought of doing in the next 10 or 15 minutes is to talk to you firstly about a little bit about inclusion, how that's really important to us in Deloitte here in Australia. Then I want to share with you how we hold ourselves accountable, and then share with you what we call our 6 signature traits of an inclusive leader, and share with you what that means and how one should adopt that to become truly inclusive leaders. We'll talk a little bit about the leadership shadow you cast, because I think that's important, and that's something that you can influence. After that, a couple of minutes just on what do we do to ensure that our leaders are inclusive, and how do we help our women in particular to overcome some of the leadership challenges that they face. I'll spend a few minutes to talk to you about what I've done in my personal life and a bit of a personal story, and then Binu and I would be very happy to take any questions that you might have. So look, if I start with inclusion at Deloitte, I have to start at the beginning with our global aspiration. And this is to be undisputed leader in the professional services environment. And then, I think this is inspired by a single-minded purpose, which we articulate as making an impact that matters for our people, for our clients, and then for society as a whole. Now, you'd ask the question now is, well, how does inclusion fit into all of this? For me, it fits into what we call our 5 shared values, and you'll see those up on the screen. These values are leading the way, serving with integrity, taking care of each other, fostering inclusion, and collaboration to ensure measurable impact. For us, the aspiration, the purpose, making an impact that matter, and the shared values not only drive the consistency in the way that we do things or the way that we make decisions, but it also, for me, is the guiding principle that helps us focus all our efforts to ensure that we're successful in all that we do. So when I look at inclusion and, my personal view, and you'll hear so many people talk about it, this is that leading with inclusion means that you have to lead from the top. You have to lead from the front. So when I look at our CEO, Richard Deutsch, his national exec and our C100, which is our most senior and influential partners, we've all embraced the notion of being inclusive leaders. We all get held accountable through KPIs, and we all get trained on how to be better inclusive leaders. We're really passionate about creating an environment and where all our people can just be themselves, can openly share their unique perspectives, the experiences, and just, be their best selves. For us, that's not only the right thing to do for our people, but it's so inspirational and just provides this amazing platform to capitalize on the benefits that diversity of thought brings. So one thing that I think is absolutely crucial is that if you do have an inclusion, diversity and wellbeing strategy, that it's absolutely embedded within the strategy of your business, which is the case with us. So our strategy is part of our 2024 business plan. It's endorsed by the firm's executive, and it's the commitment of everyone in our organisation to create a safe, a respectful and inclusive environment where just everyone has the opportunity to develop, the opportunity to grow and to succeed. So if I now move to inclusive leadership and our 6 signature traits, you might have heard about that before. It's something that was developed within Deloitte Australia. It's now been embraced by the firm globally. And many of our clients also use this framework to build inclusive leadership skills. And you'll see it up on the screen there. And it's a continuum. So it starts with commitment because, let's be honest, it's hard to be committed to inclusion, diversity and well-being. It takes a lot of understanding of your personal values and true understanding of the business case. But it also takes courage because there is some personal risk-taking. How hard is it for us as leaders to speak up when someone does something wrong or to challenge the status quo? And really to understand the strengths we have and how we bring that to the equation. Then for me, one of the biggest faults or the Achilles heel, probably a better word to use, of leaders is the biases we have. To me, highly inclusive leaders just simply have to be mindful of both their personal but also the organisational blind spots, and to then exercise self-regulation to ensure a level playing field. Curiosity, we're all different. We need to be curious and understand what makes us different, what makes us all tick. And that gives us better cultural intelligence and the ability to truly navigate this world we're living in and be confident with the different cultures in which we operate. And then finally, the last trait is the one that just brings it all together, the trait of collaboration, which allows us to obtain diversity of thought, of all the beautiful diversity we have, through inclusion, and just bring so much better results and solutions to the most complex problems that we have. Now, I get asked often, what's your favourite trait? And I don't think you should have a favourite, but I will share with you that I really like the trait of courage. To me, that with that comes humility. With that comes a level of vulnerability and just honesty that you don't always have the answer to all the questions. Now, to me, it takes courage, and particularly in times now where we're sitting with COVID-19, life is turned upside down. What was good yesterday is not good today. Here we are. 6 months ago, we'd be sitting in a big conference room. We'll be sipping some tea and enjoying each other. I'll be able to see you as my audience. But here we are, we're having a virtual conference, and the need for us to adapt and to adapt with speed and to be courageous is so important. Now, once we've looked at the 6 signature traits, I think the next thing for us to be really focused on is the leadership shadow that we cast. Now, the best way for me to explain what your leadership shadow is it's the alignment that you as a leader have between what you say, what you do, what you prioritize, and what you measure. So if all those things are aligned, you'll cast a real deep and meaningful shadow. But similarly, the opposite is true. If you don't walk the talk, or if you say one thing and do another, your leadership shadow will be short and, quite frankly, ineffectual. So when I think about myself and when I talk to others or mentor others about what the leadership shadow is that you cast, I always say, think about 4 things. Think about what people are going to say when you've left the room. What are they going to say about you? What impression do you actually want to leave with those that you're mentoring, coaching, or influencing? Or what behavior do you want to inspire in them? And then, most importantly is what is the behavior that you are prepared to walk past? So where is the point where you're going to call behavior and you're going to take action because it's beyond what you personally find as acceptable? What I wanted to share now, and that we'll show up on the screen, is some inspirational quotes of politicians and business people or motivational speakers that in my personal life has helped me to be a more inspirational and authentic leader. So the first one is Jacinda Ardern, and you might all remember this. That was when there was a bombing in Wellington, I think. She made the comment that she refuses to believe that you cannot be both compassionate and strong. And how true is that? It's we always think we have to be aggressive and assertive, but that's not true, and that's not necessary. And then we've got Warren Buffett, a very influential and well-known businessman. He talks about leadership, and he says leadership is about making others better as a result of your presence. And then even more importantly, I think, having an impact that lasts even in your absence. And then when we talk about authenticity, there's no one with better guidance and wisdom than Brené Brown, who talks about authentic leadership being the choices you make, the choice to be honest, the choice to be present, the choice to be yourself. And then finally, one of the things that I always remind myself of is a quote from Dreyer. She says, "Remain a lifelong student and absolutely never lose that curiosity." Now I could go on and on about inspirational leaders and the impact they've had on my life. But what we do here at Deloitte to help our leaders to become more inclusive leaders is we have virtual, they used to be face-to-face, they're now virtual activation labs. And that's helping our leaders to truly understand the 6 signature traits that I spoke to you about earlier, to fully comprehend what that means, to adapt their own style, to understand their leadership shadow. And then after that, we do assessments, inclusive leadership assessments, which is, sort of like a 360 assessment where your boss, your peers, and those that work for you give you feedback, and then you can get some independent feedback on how you fare against the 6 signature traits of an inclusive leader. What we do for our women specific, and we've been doing this since 2003, is we've got a program called Inspiring Women, and a bit about that will come up on the screen now. It's been approximately 100 women every year. Sometimes we're now about at 120 per annum, all levels in the organisation. And we help them through some of the leadership challenges that we as women face. And we focus on 3 specific aspects of leadership. We look at the authentic leader, we look at the visible leader, and then we look at the risk taker. When you look at the authentic leader, we think about having a personal brand and a value-based leadership style. The visible leader, we look more towards, building a profile and then amplifying that profile, truly knowing what you stand for, truly knowing what your strengths are. Looking at your network, how do you build a network and optimize that? And then a little bit about the imposter syndrome, which is, so many of us, particularly women, suffer from, and how do we break that cycle? And then, we as humans, and particularly, again, many women tend to be very risk averse. Maybe it's just me as an auditor, but, helping our women to truly understand the risks that they take and helping them to be more resilient. For me, authentic leadership is really, really important, but it's also really, really hard. because so many of us, we actually want to be the person that we look up to, the person that we emulate or aspire to be, or that inspire us. But rather, we should take the time to truly understand what our strengths are, and learn to play to those strengths, rather than wasting so much time and energy on leadership attributes that aren't intrinsically ours. For me, therein lies the beauty. Understand each other's strengths, understand how to capitalize on those strengths through inclusion, to solve any problem, and to bring the best solutions to whatever challenges we have. Now, I'm conscious of time, so I'll just end with a very brief personal story. I was born in South Africa, needed to provide my two young children. At that stage, Alida was 5 and my little son, Ricky, was 2, or just 2.5. I needed to give them the opportunity to have a bright future, so we immigrated to Australia. And I often get asked, Margaret, what's the one thing that helped you be successful as a partner here in Deloitte Australia? To me, there's no doubt that it's sponsorship. And it's a sponsorship that a very dear friend now, but the then CEO of Deloitte, his name is Guillaume Swickers, offered me. He just had that absolute confidence in me. He had this amazing ability to influence my career in a very meaningful way. I'll always be grateful, and I'll never forget the impact that he's had. And this is something that I try and pay forward wherever I can. There's absolutely nothing greater for me than to sponsor talent, particularly with female talent, into leadership positions. And, I get asked, what is the difference between sponsorship and mentorship? For me, sponsorship is connecting those dots so that someone can move up in the food chain, whereas mentorship is more, the softer side, being there for them, helping them overcome the hurdles, and just, being a sounding board. So look, it's been great. It's been really, really great speaking to you. I love the topic of authenticity, and I really look forward to responding to any questions you might have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Binu and Margaret. That was wonderful. I think some key takeaways from Binu's session was looking at, being transparent, and at the risk of being transparent is also being vulnerable. And some of the other things was, getting to admit mistakes. That was such an awesome example, Binu, sharing that, yes, there was a mistake that you made and how quickly you acknowledged it and actually took corrective action. That was a fantastic takeaway. And with Margaret's session, I think courage to say, I don't know. I think as a leader, it's natural for not to know everything in the positions that we are in, but the courage to say, I don't know. And this nice aspect of, one of the pillars that Margaret spoke about is taking care of each other, apart from the points that she spoke about leading, serving with integrity, and so on and so forth. So anyway, so that was nice. And it's always a struggle. I mean, should I be myself? And if I'm myself, will I be vulnerable? Will I be exposed? And the courage to admit mistakes and to say, I don't know. I think these actually are hallmarks of showing that how true you are to yourself and to the organization that you work for. So we have the first question. First question for Binu is from Mukta Sharma. Can Binu share more details on Disha? And how have the men in the organization taken this? Also, continuing on that question, let me just complete that question. Building further on the question, Mukta asks, Disha, some of these initiatives take off well, but lose steam. Has Binu experienced this at times? It becomes a push rather than a pull factor. How do you deal with it then, Binu?
Thank you, Usha, for that question. And thanks to Mukta for asking as well. So to just talk about Disha, Disha is a 6-month blended learning experience that we have at HP. And we take our women employees, it's generally a cohort of about 35 to 40, through these 6 months, right? So have men kind of put a spoke in the wheel? I wouldn't say that's the case at HP, simply because we have included them to walk this journey with us. We have a lot of speed coaching mentors. We have a lot of people who are partnering, even the core team. So it's just not like a women for women program, but it's a top-down program where everyone wants to do. And our goal is to ensure that more women reach these leadership positions, right? So it is a hand-in-hand program. And for once, we've not got any like pushback from the men. But then obviously we are a large organization of about 10,000 employees. There have been murmurs like, why only a program for women? But that's the truth, right? We have a problem and we are addressing it. We want to get more women to senior level positions. We want, our board to have more women. In fact, HP's board is one of the most diverse boards in the industry, right? So keeping that in mind, this program was created. And to answer the second part of the question, Usha, this program is the most coveted program at HP, right? So there was no way that it's going to lose steam because, everyone's excited about it. And again, full kudos to the core team that is driving this program. We were doing it face-to-face for the past 3 years, but this year we've even gone virtual because this is a very high in demand kind of a program, right? And this is every batch that we complete, there's a next set of women that are raring to go and that really want to participate in it. So we're really looking forward to see what more we can add, and it's going in a very positive manner from there.
Wonderful. I think all the initiatives would require a hand-in-hand approach. And especially in organizations where we have programs like this, it's very important to have men as allies. And to say that it cannot be just a one-way approach. It has definitely to be two ways. And I'm sure in some of the sessions you also have both men and women, contributing their experiences. Right. So we have the next question, Binu. After that, I request Margaret to also share her thoughts on this. How can leaders ensure the level playing field is enabled in this pandemic situation with diverse teams sitting at different geographical locations? I think, first of all, kudos, you were able to get 10,000 people work from home. I think setting up absolutely must be a very clear process and system in place. So how do leaders ensure that, especially when, face-to-face communication, having a cup of coffee or having lunch together is not possible?
Right. So I always tell my teams this. I think the largest work from home experiment just got done because of the pandemic, right? And there are huge learnings for every organization from this, right? To me, I look at a lot of boundaries being broken. Now, if I were to just talk about my own HR team, if there's someone that's aspiring to support maybe a team in Europe, initially we would be like, oh, we have to have somebody, who's sitting in Europe. But now with everything being so virtual, I'm sure a lot of roles are going to open up, which means opportunities and which means a level playing field. So to me, I think this is a fabulous opportunity, and we are going to see a completely different workforce post this pandemic settling down. And all of us are thinking in those ways, right? So, yeah.
Yes, the boundaries are definitely merging now. Right. So it's just a question of whether it's time difference. And I think all of us adapt pretty well when the job at hand is at stake and we need to contribute and, achieve something, the boundaries just merge together. Yeah. Right. So Margaret, what would be your thoughts on this?
So Usha, just before we go to that question, I just wanted to go back to the previous question where we spoke about, the resistance you might have from men that, why are you giving women special treatment? And in fact, here in Australia, and I'm not sure about India, but here in Australia, we actually find some of our younger women saying, well, don't treat me differently because, why am I, So what we do here is generally speaking, everyone has every opportunity to develop and grow. And we've got millions of programs, and I'm sure that Binu's got the same, to develop your technical skills, your soft skills, etc. All we do with our Inspiring Women program, which is similar to yours, I think, Binu, is we just have a special program or additional support that we provide women. And that's what I spoke about earlier around, the authentic leadership, etc. And, we do get pushback on that. But somewhere you've got to say, look, there's a reason why there's an imbalance, yeah? And sometimes you have to have conscious discrimination, for lack of a better way of describing it, to fix the imbalance. You have to take the specific deliberate steps, and it takes, both of us spoke about courage. It takes courage to actually take deliberate steps to fix inequality, because inequality cannot be fixed by equality. Yeah. So it's really important to be brave and courageous to say, I want to make the change. So that was my point on that. If you go back to the level playing field, I think, look, I agree with what Binu said. What I would add to that is in this virtual world, we're probably faced with different type of challenges when you look at Zoom calls or team calls, whatever platforms we as different organizations use. And we spend quite a bit of time equipping our leaders with some of the challenges that the more reserved or soft-spoken or less confident individuals might have, and how do you give them that opportunity to have a voice? Because you tend to be the more loud, outgoing person would have more command of the audience. So we help our leaders to have skills where they can pull in the more reserved speaker and give them a voice, and be conscious of them having a contribution.
Right. So I think it's, would you feel, Margaret, that in this pandemic situation, it's become more important for leaders to reach out more often than what they used to do earlier?
Oh, look, there's no doubt in my mind. We actually earlier today we had a session where we were talking about mental health with our partners, and the need for us to be able to lead to understand people's mental well-being, and how hard it is in this virtual world, because it's hard to read body language. It's hard to understand. Many people don't come onto the screen. They just show their photo, so it's hard to read. Are they actually mentally well? And with us, we got full lockdown in some of our states, so it's really tough going for some people in Australia. So I think just focusing on that through communication and true understanding of your people. So get close to them, speak to them. We've had some training around. Don't necessarily have to say how things are going, because people tend to say, no, it's good. Rather use things like, what were the biggest challenges you had in today? Or how did you find, what do you find difficult with talking to your teams? But just to help people to feel comfortable sharing some of the challenges they have, because it's hard to spot it, in yourself and in others, particularly in the virtual world.
Right. Thank you for that, Margaret. I think this question is very pertinent that's come to you, saying that, Margaret, women are risk averse. I mean, yes, this is a very stereotypical statement, but a lot of women in our audience might also agree to that. This is a reality across the world. How do we change this innate nature in women, and is it absolutely necessary to do that?
Look, I think, I'm an auditor, so being risk averse to me is actually a good thing, because we don't want to take any risks. But I think, and I don't think it's exclusively women, but I think we tend to be more risk averse than men, generally speaking. That's certainly what Catalyst and other, organizations' data is showing us. So yes, it is innate. It's just helping us just to have that courage to just take that extra step, but giving us the comfort and the support to know that we won't fail. So, I often have instances where we want to promote someone to the next level, whatever the level might be, and someone would say, "Oh, I'm not sure I'm ready. Maybe another 6 months, or I need to still develop this and that." And then when you go into the discussion, men tend to, and stats show that, Catalyst can show that, men tend to, they've got 5 out of 10 and they go for it, and women have got 11 out of 10 and they're still reserved and don't want to go forward. So it's just helping people through that, and just saying, just giving them confidence, and then with the move, surrounding them with the right support to ensure success.
I think a lot of it also would depend on how the girls and boys are brought up. I think to a large extent, we want our girls to be protected and to be, delicate, not to take risks. It's a lot of it actually amounts to that. One need to introspect on that. So, Binu, the next question is for you. Sometimes in organizations, there are compulsions which you cannot open up with a larger forum. In such situations, how can you retain your authenticity?
Yeah, so it really depends on the situation, right? But understanding what the specific situation is, or what that question is, and then kind of dealing with it with your natural self is how you can really kind of maintain that authenticity, right? I feel that a lot of leaders try to put up like a show, and sometimes it's not needed. And I think Margaret rightly said, right, if you don't know something, it's important to just accept you don't know. And maybe you can find out and come back, but then giving the wrong answer is not a solution, right? So I think if I were to handle any of these ambiguous kind of situations where I'm not clear about the answer, I'd just take a pause and say that, I'll come back with the answer, right? So that is the most authentic self that I would really bring forward.
Wonderful. So I think as we have just another a minute and a half to go, I'd like to ask both Margaret and Binu, what is that one statement you'd like to leave this audience with as far as authenticity is concerned? Just one statement.
Shall I go first?
Yes, please do.
My views is make the choices that are right for you in your personal values. And if you make the choices that allow you to be yourself, allow others to feel empowered, be present in discussions, and truly show compassion and show interest.
Yes, thank you, Margaret, for that. Binu?
Yeah, and mine would be like, be comfortable in your skin, right? It is important that you bring that most honest self of yours out, and be it like, a leader that, is able to accept, or, is able to accept mistakes, or to, check on things and come back, but you have to be comfortable in your skin. If you're not, then, it won't lead to authenticity.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I think being true to yourself and be comfortable in your own skin. Thank you so much for this session. I'm sure it's added a lot of food for thought, and it's resonated with most of us here today. Lakshmi, can I request you to just quickly close it?
Thank you. Thank you, panelists, for this amazing, wonderful session. And I would also like to thank all the audience for being such a wonderful audience. Please do not forget to share your experience on our events feed page, and also post on your social media platforms with the hashtag #ThePowerOfI.